our Kickstarter. My name is Priscilla Regina Naloga. Delightful to be in your company. As you hear the birds in the background, yes, I'm not in studio. I'm in Magere, and I'm here to talk to an opinion leader, an opposition leader, about certain issues, of course, that have been causing national havoc, if we can call it that. Uganda's top opposition leader, Robert Kyagulanyi, is with me this morning, and we want to talk about Uganda's regional agendas. Of course, we have to talk about the East African Legislative Assembly and the elections that are around the corner. You know, you have been having your own opinion about the European Union position on the oil projects that we have here in Uganda. We're going to hear his 2 cents about that and so much more. So this is me turning to say good morning to you, Robert.
Good morning to you, Priscilla. My name is Kyagulanyi.
Kyagulanyi. Naroga, so it's Kyagulanyi, you know? Naroga.
Yeah, pleasure being with you.
Thank you so much for having us once again. While you were away and from the last time we had conversations, a lot has happened on the national scene, and we are always seeing what government is doing. We are always seeing what the three arms of government are trying to do about these matters. But there's always the notion that someone else probably has an alternative solution or idea on how best to mitigate the issues that we're grappling with as Uganda. But before we get into the nitty-gritties of it, let's talk about the documentary film that you premiered in Italy that is dubbed Bobi Wine, the Ghetto President. Tell us about that.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers, and it's a pleasure to be with you this morning. Yeah, I was in Venice, Italy, and later at Telluride Mountains in the United States in Colorado. We were screening a documentary film initially called Bobi Wine, the Ghetto President, but when National Geographic took it over and it was reviewed by various people, it was renamed the People's President. Nevertheless, the detail of that documentary film is it's a tale of our journey ever since we got into active politics, but most importantly, the chronicle documentation of the horrors and atrocities that Ugandans have had to endure under General Museveni. I must mention that in the film, not even 1% of the violence and oppression is documented, because this is centered around me and the people that are around me. And you'll agree with me that we, the people that are always in the camera, face the least of the oppression. But even that list that was documented, it was horrifying to the world. I'm very glad that we had the opportunity to expose firsthand, unfiltered, unedited, the situation in Uganda. You see, General Museveni has been smart all along. He has invested a lot of time, a lot of siasa, a lot of propaganda, but most importantly, billions of taxpayers' money trying to paint a glossy and rosy picture of Uganda. Now, for the first time, we struck the mask off and we stripped him bare. So that's an achievement. At least now, it is not hearsay. It is reality. It is documented on camera.
Okay. Yeah. What do you expect to achieve out of this documentary in the future of your political journey?
Exposure. Exposure. I said it in the beginning that part of our agenda was to expose the inconsistencies, the injustice, and the atrocities, to show this regime to the world for what it is, a military dictatorship, and a brutal one at that. So ours is exposure, exposure, exposure.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking of the world, you have made a trip to Ukraine, and you have been having a first-hand experience in terms of what's happening in Ukraine and the dictatorship, again, that you speak of that is coming through from Russia. Allow me to quote your tweet. You said, "In Kyiv, Ukraine, to express solidarity with the Ukrainian people and leadership against Russia's war of aggression and occupation. If the dictators stand by each other, the Democrats should stand by each other too. It's dangerous but noble." That was your tweet last week. Give us more details into what you meant, that if the dictators are standing together, even the Democrats should stand together.
It's clear. Dictators on one side, Democrats on another side. You notice that some of the... First of all, I'll talk about the war, Russia's war in Ukraine. The war of occupation. Ukraine, like many other countries, were one time part of the Soviet Empire, and they got their independence recently, 1991. However, there's been an effort by President Putin to make sure he recolonizes all these other countries. I mean, that's the cause of the war in Ukraine today. Ukraine is insisting that they are an independent state. They want to self-determine. They want to choose whether to be part of the European Union or to be part of the Soviet Union. They are a people with a history, with a culture. And I think, like South Sudan, like Somaliland, like all these other nations that strive for self-determination, I think Ukraine deserves the right as well. And we always say that occupation in one place is a threat to independence elsewhere. At least in 2021, we wouldn't expect a country, a civilized one at that, to be invading another to occupy it. Anyway, to see that, I mean, the authoritarian rulers always stick by each other. That's why you find most African dictators actually stood by President Putin, you know, in his effort to recolonize and reoccupy Ukraine. We would not, and some of them, of course, pretended to be neutral. But like Bishop Desmond Tutu told us, you cannot be neutral in a situation of injustice. If you are pretending to be neutral when there's an injustice, then you are on the side of the strong guy. In this case, we would not, you know, pretend to be neutral. We are on the side of the oppressed people of Ukraine, and we support them to fight back and, you know, stamp down their independence. I must also mention that there's been aggressive propaganda, you know, that Russian propaganda, especially between the leaders, not the populations. I mean, when President Putin has a favor that he has done for Museveni, Museveni is going to try to justify that. I've also seen some of them claiming that, oh yeah, we have to stand by Russia because the Soviet Union was, you know, a partner in our struggle for independence. I agree with that, but it should be known that in the 60s, Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. And indeed, South African freedom fighters, the armed wing of Mukonto Sizwe, when Nelson Mandela was in prison, 40% of them were trained in Ukraine. So the Ukrainians are our brothers and sisters. Today, there's Ukraine and there's Russia. What we get from Russia are the weapons, the dictators' favorite toys and tools of suppression. What we get from Ukraine is vegetable oil, food, and all that. So you can see what we get from either countries. Yeah.
Okay. We are wondering, did you have a meeting with the president of Ukraine, Vladimir?
When I was there, I met various leaders. I will tell you about some.
Please.
Some I will not tell you. Yeah. Some will remain confidential until the right time.
All right. So tell us about the leaders that you get to meet.
Those, I met quite a number of them. Some I put out there, some I did not. For example, Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of Ukraine, met two former presidents. I met a few leaders in the military and other, you know, areas. I wouldn't want to put all the details out there. What you saw is part of what I did in Ukraine.
So the bigger question is then, what sort of relationship are you trying to build with Ukraine?
A moral relationship. A moral relationship. For now, it was an initial visit. It was my first visit in Ukraine, and it was a visit in a tough time. I mean, all borders are closed. There's no flight that is going into Ukraine or out, and going into Ukraine right from the border, we were under military escort. You know, it was mainly to assess the situation and, of course, to stand in solidarity with them. I wasn't alone. I was with fellow leaders from Ghana, from Tanzania, and from South Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for the future of good governance and democracy, what are some of those lessons that you picked out of that trip?
Freedom is worth defending at all costs. For us, we are still defending our freedom non-violently because we believe that non-violence is stronger than violence. But again, we also agree with the people of Ukraine that are picking up arms to defend themselves, because there comes a time when, you know, defending yourself morally and non-violently is not, you know, measuring up to the aggressive, violent attack. So I don't believe in violence, but again, I cannot stand in the way of the Ukrainian people that are picking up arms to defend their country. That's why all men stayed there. The women and the children were repatriated. The men stood firm and they're defending their country. And I must give it to them. They are making efforts. They are pushing back against Russia. You know, a once known world power. But now people of Ukraine are showing us that even in the face of insurmountable odds, people that love their country can defend it. They can defend their freedom. So that is an inspiration to us.
Okay.
And of course, it's supposed to warn those that are, you know, are oppressing us, that there will come when oppressed people cannot take it anymore, and we'll have to use any means necessary to maintain their freedom.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, of course, friends and supporters of the National Unity Platform and other opposition parties may commend you for the journey and the trek that you did to Ukraine. However, you do have some people having different perceptions, especially political leaders and figures within the government. For example, you do have Okello Oryem, who publicly actually came out to express his dissatisfaction of your trip, among others. And so for a country that has chosen to actually remain neutral in this conversation of Ukraine-Russia war, urged to take foreign policy lessons, does it mean that you are actually siding with Ukraine?
It does not just mean that I am siding with Ukraine. It is clear that we are siding with the freedom of Ukraine. And, you know, Mr. Okello Oryem should take some cold water and think through it. This is the same person that denied us opportunity to repatriate our brothers and sisters from China in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. These are the same people that are looking at our brothers and sisters having their organs extracted out of them in Arab countries. These are the same people that are looking with a smile on their faces while our brothers and sisters are being enslaved today in 2021. So they have no moral authority to tell us about Pan-Africanism. You know,
Okay.
we are oppressed people, and we stand with fellow oppressed people from across the world.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the European resolution on Uganda's oil project. Last Thursday, we did have the European Parliament releasing an emergency resolution, and that was denouncing the consequences of the oil projects in Uganda. One of the things that they highlighted, of course, is human rights violations. They did highlight the impact of this pipeline and where exactly it's passing on environment, but also on the displacement of communities and so on and so forth. What do you make of this report? Because I know from what has been stated by your party, you sort of had influence on the European Parliament's stance on the oil project in Uganda.
Yeah, we did not only welcome it, but we procured it. We encouraged our people to demonstrate, to lobby, to use all platforms that they have to make sure that the international community does not continuously support directly or indirectly the oppression of the people of Uganda. And I'm very glad you cited it. They cited human rights violations, illegal and unfair, you know, displacement of people. People cannot bury their dead. Today, more than 100,000 people have been displaced from their land, and most times violently. You know the corruption that goes on in the, you know, higher offices. You know that before a road is constructed, those that are privy to the details of the construction of the road and the mapping, they go and they displace people off their land. Some of them, they buy them forcefully, and others, they forcefully, you know, evict them off their land. Later on, they sell that land back to themselves. They compensate themselves. And that's the same thing that they did. You've had numerous cases all through Bunyoro, from Hoima to Chotera. People have been displaced, people have lost their land unfairly by the use of the military, and all that is followed back to General Museveni's close circles. So that's a gross human rights abuse. Never mind that we still have rampant abductions, state-inspired disappearances. As we speak now, last night, 2 people were abducted. 2, just last night. So on a daily we get constant reports. There's a brother called Gaza and another young man nicknamed Abitex. They were taken by the military. There's rape by the military here in Uganda. All that goes as if it's normal. So we've been calling upon the international community to make the respect for human rights and respect for the rule of law a precondition for collaboration with Uganda. We are part of the international community, but we cannot be, subjugated by our own wealth. I co-authored a book with Dr. Greg Mills called Expensive Poverty. We, the people of Uganda, are poor, and our poverty is so expensive because it is our wealth that is actually making us poor. It is our oil that is causing us the loss of our land. It is our gold that is causing us, displacement, etc., etc. So we cannot continue being the own sponsors of our poverty. Our massive natural resources cannot continue being a curse to us. So we've been calling upon the international community to rein in when they deal with a dictator here in Uganda as if they're dealing with a legitimate government. It's wrong. It is the European Union Parliament that passed a resolution condemning the manner in which the 2021 elections were conducted, effectively nullifying them. So we were calling upon them, telling them, okay, if you know that this guy is not a legitimate president, if you know it's not a legitimate government, and not only that, they continue to abuse rights, are you part of the problem? Do you know what trouble Ugandans would be in if General Museveni got that oil money? All these countries, especially in the Middle East, these countries that have descended into presidential monarchs, it is the natural resources, it is the oil that gets into their hands. Countries like Iraq, it was not a presidential monarch. Countries like Syria, countries like Brunei, it is that wealth. Uganda can very easily become, a nuclear state because of that wealth. And you know what Museveni will do. Right now, he's trying to put his son as his heir before he puts his grandson. We don't want to descend into a presidential monarch.
All right.
So conditions have to be put before our wealth is extracted.
Let me dive a little bit deeper. Why did the National Unity Platform choose to go to the European Union instead of maybe appealing to the African Union?
I'll tell you this. First of all, you should ask why would we even go outside Uganda when we have courts here in Uganda? But Owinyidoro, you saw how the judiciary here behaved on the presidential election petition that we brought. They clearly showed that they are in the pockets of General Museveni. The East African community and the African Union has largely become a club of presidents looking out for each other and putting diplomacy ahead of justice and ahead of everything. But most importantly, we know that Museveni has largely been a puppet of the West. You see, the Baganda say, Nkumanyi Muze, Yago Girako. Now Museveni calls us puppet of the West, but he has been the puppet of the West, just endorsing everything that comes. We know where Museveni's money comes from. We know where Museveni's energy comes from, and that is where exactly we go. So we went to the EU and told them, you people have historically been empowering dictators. Amin would have fallen long time if the international community got their hands off him. Gaddafi, Mugabe, etc., all dictators would have fallen long enough before, if the international community got their hands off them. So we went to them and told them, we know that if you stop sponsoring our operation back home, at least that would be the first step to our liberation. And they listened to us, at least so far.
But then again, the repercussion of that from other people's views is that we are reintroducing colonialism at the end of the day, which then kills the independence
What
that we're continuously following through.
By telling the foreigners not to sponsor our operation, that is colonialism. By telling them stop sponsoring a dictator here, I don't think it is. I'll tell you that all these dictators always pull out that Pan-African card. I saw Tayebwa with his sheep hair on the head, that colonial wig that they put. They don't even know what it means. They keep sweating, but they want to look white. And they call out on colonialism. What do you call colonialism? I think colonialism is subjecting your people to a foreign power. You see, we almost no longer have an airport. Our country is being mortgaged to the whites. Today, If you have a child, that child owes the foreigners 1.8 million. Every Ugandan, even one that was born today, you owe foreigners 1.8 million. I don't know how much it's going to be next year. All that money is being borrowed by Museveni and his team, robbing it, but it is us that have to pay it.
Okay.
So they are literally selling us back to colonialism. They are talking about colonialism. They are selling our children to slavery. Today, slave trade is happening today, and those people in power are the ones owning those companies that sell our daughters there. Every day they repatriate an average of 3 dead bodies killed in the Middle East. And they talk about colonialism. They have the guts to talk about colonialism. They have reintroduced slavery today. They run companies that sell organs. They sell your kidney while you're still alive, and they call out colonialism. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Okay. All right. You talked about natural resources. The reality of the matter.
Let me also, I'm sorry to interject, but I'll tell you this without any doubt, that actually we are now being recolonized by people in a black skin. Okay? Museveni himself is a colonialist. He's a colonialist. He's, at least according to President Obote, Museveni is not a Ugandan. His father was not born in Uganda. Museveni was not born in Uganda. His son was not born in Uganda. And his grandchildren are not born in Uganda. Colonialism is a state where a foreigner is ruling over you. And Museveni is a colonialist of this modern day. So, who is talking about colonialism? I'm a Ugandan. I'm an indigenous Ugandan. Talking about Uganda and fighting for what is rightfully ours. We don't want our natural wealth to go into the hands of a foreigner, that is Museveni. No wonder he does not care about our healthcare system. No wonder he does not care about our education. No wonder he does not care about the future of Uganda. Because he's not a Ugandan anyway. He's a colonialist in 2022.
All right. You have talked about the natural wealth that we have. The reality of the matter is that we have oil.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a resource that can enable us as Uganda to break free from the chains of colonialism. How then do we revert and arrest this natural resource to then defend us and give us the liberty to be as independent and then bring the wealth back to us so that we can thrive as a nation?
Thank you. We, the Christians, are told that God will test you with a little to see how you will behave when they give you the bigger chunk. Look at what is happening with our gold. You know, it is closed out by one family. If it's not Museveni, it's his son. If it's not his son, it's his brother Sodo. They own the gold mines in the country, you know. That's exactly what's happening to oil. And he has been honest. The guy has told you that it is my oil, it is his oil. How can we make sure that we maximize the natural resources of Uganda to benefit Ugandans? By ensuring that these resources are, you know, run by institutions, not an individual, but institutions. There's no institutionalism here in Uganda. It's an individual that's ruling over us. That is why you were seeing in the Kosase probe, the people that run the Uganda Airlines are telling you that they get instructions from Salim Saleh, Museveni's brother. So everything is owned by one family, okay? The only way we can benefit from our natural resources is to ensure that these natural resources are actually benefiting the people of Uganda. Do you know the details of the oils agreements that are made?
So if you were president, how would you make that happen? When you are president, how will you make that happen?
I would make sure all these are run by institutions. I'll make sure there's clarity, there's transparency. It's not one person or one family that runs the wealth of the nation. I gave you an example of gold. What these people are doing with the gold from Karamoja is exactly what they intend to do with the oil from Bunyuru. That is how they are dealing with the land. Look at them, they are owning land in miles, in a region where they are not born. Where did they get those miles of land? Okay? Now the same way they've been running the oil is the same way they are intending, I mean they've been running the gold, it's the same way they're intending to run the oil. And we're saying, stop. Togasima. Let us first align it. I mean, we are still a young population. Museveni is dying out soon. That oil is going to benefit Uganda and not benefit Museveni. And we were advised by Dr. Besigye more than 3 years ago that if that oil falls in the hands of Museveni, we are finished. And we said, okay, I mean, we can't stop him in Uganda, but at least we know the source, so we stop him from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's come back to Africa. The East African region is preparing for the Legislative Assembly elections.
Yeah.
We do see that in the papers and in the talking points for the last few weeks. Now, of course, the ruling party has taken dominancy and is even caused influence to the opposition representative seats that are available. But from day one, National Unity Platform chose not to actually participate in this nomination process.
Yeah.
Why did you come to that decision?
We decided not to just legitimize a process that will bear no fruit. I'll tell you that the East African Legislative Assembly was established to collect opinions. You understand? There's a reason why there is expected to be a number representing the ruling party, a number and other members representing different shades. Unfortunately, like under every dictatorship, I mean, it's the common dictator's playbook. They make sure they co-opt. The same way they co-opted the UPC, now they've co-opted the DP, and sadly, they are co-opting JEMA too. To make sure that for every opinion that goes there is an opinion defending and legitimizing General Museveni's rule. It is clear that we are living under subjugation. It's very unfortunate that some politicians actually don't care about the plight of people. They only care about their stomachs. It's very, very unfortunate. Otherwise, in a situation where people are being abducted, okay? People are being abducted and killed. I don't know if that's what UPC stands for. I don't know if that's what DP or JEMA stands for. Museveni is trying to lock out any voice that can bring reality from Uganda. That is why NUP is the biggest party relegated to the opposition. We don't believe we are the opposition, but that's where we're relegated to, and we have to, you know, run our show from there as well. However, we are locked out, everybody that is going there, because NRM has the biggest numbers, and their MPs don't necessarily think. Like Museveni said, he's not looking for MPs that think, for as long as they can vote according to his instruction, they'll go like that. So it's very, very unfortunate, but that's the reality, that we are taking only yes men. They have to meet Museveni, gives them orders, and they go on. They misrepresent us. However, I am confident that even without the East African Legislation Assembly, at least we have the various platforms to air our views, to also discredit it. We also, through our legal lines in the party, are intending to challenge that process in court, because it is not representative of the views of the people of Uganda, and it should be challenged.
Okay, all right. How else then does the National Unity Platform intend to engage in the East African integration?
Well, we are engaging in various ways. Like I said, the East African community is a very noble idea. It's an idea that was started by our forefathers. But every idea that is good, still under dictatorship, is vulgarized to the benefit of the dictatorship. That does not mean it's the end of the journey. I mean, look at the East African community. We say we have federated. We have no common currency. We have no common values, okay? Because in Kenya here, it is our sister country, but they just had elections recently. No abductions, no political prisoners, no internet shutdown, no police round or military rounding of opposition residences, etc., etc. In Uganda, it's different. In Tanzania, Kenya, and various other countries, they've had various peaceful transfers of power from one leader to another. In Uganda today, it's coming to 40 years, no peaceful transfer of power. So, I am convinced that the East African community has been reduced to a club of presidents. However, we also know that East Africa is not only about the leaders, it's about the populations. We can engage with the Kenyans, with the Ugandans, with the Tanzanians, and with other East Africans. In any case, when I was abducted in 2018, and nobody knew where I was, it's not the government of Kenya that stood up, or the government of Tanzania. It was the people of Kenya that stood up and put pressure, and I was released. So the people are stronger than those that rule over them. Our relationships are much bigger and go far beyond the politicians that rule over us. So we are engaging on a different style, Robert Dobb style, you know.
Okay, Robert Dobb style. Okay, all right. Let's talk about the images starting to put out there. For example, iPod boycotted. Now you do have the Legislative Assembly elections.
Yeah.
Now where's the future of the National Unity Platform? Because the reality is that you're the biggest opposition party right now represented. So if you start to, fold your hands on some of these issues, where does it leave the people?
Actually, we are folding our sleeves to fight. We are at war. We told the people that elected us. When we were elected, I'm supposed to be president of Uganda. But General Museveni took over by force of arms. Many of the MPs that were elected were not. So when we were going to parliament, many of our supporters were saying, no, don't go to parliament, boycott everything. We said we want to fight both from within and from without. So we sent our people to parliament. But we told them, we are going to parliament, but we're going to parliament as a war front, as a front to agitate, because this is a military dictatorship. And I salute all our members of parliament and all the leaders in various offices that have stood by that. Of course, quite a number of them have been compromised, evidently, but we stand with the many of those that have stood the ideals that we represent. We went there to fight, okay? We are not the kind of, that's why we say we are not the opposition, we are the option. We are not the kind of opposition that is just going to put on suits and ties and start legitimizing, all that is being done by this regime wrongly, as if we are living in a democracy. No, we are not. We boycotted iPod, and we were clear. We are not just going to legitimize Museveni, have tea with him, take pictures with him, shake hands with him, and then the picture goes out there, oh, General Museveni is a magnanimous leader who is speaking to the opposition, who everything is okay. Everything is not okay. In fact, nothing is okay. And we told the Netherlands Institute for Multi-Party Democracy, the ones that was sponsoring iPod, we told them we are not going to take part in iPod. Not that we don't believe in dialogue. No, we believe in dialogue, but we believe in meaningful dialogue, not the Museveni kind of dialogue of how much do you want? Okay, what position do I give you? This Mao kind of dialogue they involve. Call him Mao, you come here. Okay, what do you want? You see, me, once you give me a ministry, and they give him a ministry. And the eloquent Norbert Mao all of a sudden starts eating his own words, starts rolling back on the words and the values that he represented. We don't believe in that. So we told them, yes, NIMD, thank you very much, you've put so much money, but we don't want that money. Do you ever wonder why Mao and all these people were saying, oh, we are being given iPod money? And we said, okay, if you say we're being given iPod money, we don't want to be part of iPod. And iPod, it's better that you close shop in Uganda. And we are very happy that iPod closed in Uganda because it was a lie. We would welcome iPod, of course, to open and facilitate dialogue between political parties, but dialogue, not this kind of compromising talk with Museveni. We are not for sale.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Right now, as you and I speak, the country is on pressure. The Ebola outbreak, the case that was confirmed in Mubende on Monday. Yeah. And then we did have the Ministry of Health coming out on Tuesday declaring it as an outbreak. As we speak, and the front of the Daily Monitor, you saw it yourself. 11, and they're having some quarantined. Let's talk about this outbreak and what do you make of it, and how should Ugandans actually prepare for it?
First of all, Ugandans should be aware. Ebola is quite dangerous. We don't want to lose life. But Ugandans can only do so much because they are hand tied. This is a time when we are supposed to, to be empowering our healthcare system. Just 2 years ago, maybe 3 now, when the COVID-19 pandemic broke out, for me it was a challenge that was supposed to spark us into transforming our healthcare system. Unfortunately, even amidst that terrible pandemic, the money for revamping the healthcare system was being stolen, as usual. COVID did not teach us anything. We didn't learn anything. We did not fix our healthcare system. And here we are with the Ebola outbreak. So we are on the mercy of God. Of course, we salute those noble health workers that are always working and many times in dangerous situations trying to save lives. We salute times that, like this, that we look up back to the memory of great patriots of Uganda like Dr. Rukuya, who died as a victim of Ebola, and many others. Of course, this is a time to look more in our healthcare system. But will they look in it anyway? They never learn. They never learn. That's the unfortunate bit of it. I mean, we've been talking about climate change. You get one landslide in Bududa and you think it's going to teach and spark our people, our rulers to swing into action and fix the rapid response efforts. Zero. We thought they would re-empower the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness. Zero. Every now and then we are having a tragedy, we're having a landslide, boom, nothing's changed. We're having floods in riverbanks breaking in Kasese, nothing. So I am very worried about this Ebola outbreak. I want to warn the people, please be vigilant. The health workers, do what you can. But also those that rule over us, those that control our budget, please have mercy on Ugandans, have some humanity, and remember that this is a time when the taxes of the people are supposed to work and help them. But do they ever listen anyway?
Okay, disaster still related. We have been seeing Uganda faced with so many disasters back to back.
Yeah.
Of course, Bududa, Kasese, Mbale, Karamoja as we speak. Yeah. And we tend to see government always coming in as at a relief point of interface. Yeah. We desire to see a government that, as you've talked about budgets, that they should be knowing that some of these places are hotspots, and that they should continuously have plans to either relocate people or do whatever they must do by their powers to ensure that the next disaster is less, at least, and less, disastrous to the people, to the community, to the environment, but also to the image of the country. So what would be your advice in terms of the way we treat disasters that are continuous for Uganda?
First, let us have a heart for Uganda and for Ugandans. Let us think about our nation. If we think about our nation, we'll put, resources where they benefit people. Now we are building more, more prisons. We are training more military. We are buying more guns instead of, directing budgets to such initiatives to plan for the next, tragedy, which is inevitable. And number two, curb the corruption. Corruption is our problem. There is money here in Uganda, but, it's never used for what it's supposed to be used for. So cut the corruption. Make sure you punish the corrupt officials. I'll tell you that COVID-19 money was stolen by them. They just build houses and buy land and that's it. You'll find that there's a scandal in every ministry. But most importantly, even the money that is allocated to mitigate such, tragedies already happened and looming ones. It never does what it's supposed to do. Unfortunately, nobody is held accountable because corruption is used by Museveni as an exchange medium. He'll make sure you're corrupt. He will work with the corrupt people for as long as they will help him stay in power. Museveni even works with thieves, known thieves. I mean, you've seen him with Papa, okay? Papa is his boy. He does not care. He has zero morality. So let us have morality. Let us have our country at heart. But most importantly, let us stop the corruption.
Okay. Now, speaking of corruption, we had the floor of Parliament approving trillions of shillings to sort out some of these disasters, again, as relief, as aftermath of it. And you have rightly mentioned this is taxpayers' money that is being used in such a manner. And so how would you then deal with the element of corruption for such a large amount of money for a noble cause?
You can only deal with corruption by first and foremost removing the untouchable, corrupt people. Number one, the priest of corruption is Yoweri Museveni himself. He moves with stashes of cash, buying out people. I've told you what kind of moral leader poses with Papa in the pictures. He's the one with the Sobi. He's the king of corruption. And it goes down. It goes down. Look at all his ministers. Look at the Speaker of Parliament. She has the audacity to pay members of Parliament 40 million shillings in order for them to pass, immoral, sums of money for them to share. And leave alone that, they even intimidate those that they bribe. So if the parliament is a den of corruption, the executive is a den of corruption, I mean, how are you going to stop corruption? I've told you before, I'm telling you now that Uganda's problem begins and ends with Museveni. You cannot do anything because corruption is a policy here today. It's a way of life. In fact, the way of death.
Okay, all right. You have talked about the executive. We saw last week there was a collision between the executive and the legislative arms of government. It was brought into public, and it caused people like, how can we be having this sort of conflict between the two? So can we then say that Uganda is in self-drive mode?
No, Uganda is not in self-drive mode. Ugandans are in self-drive mode. There's no government in Uganda. No, there's just a band of thieves. There's no government in Uganda. There's a junta. There's a bunch of rebels that took over our country and they're running the country like a guerrilla force. I told you that, I mean, I was listening to the Kosasa hearing, and I'm seeing the former head of Uganda Airlines had to answer to Salim Saleh. I don't know who Salim Saleh works as. But again, leave alone that. Let's go back to the clash that was in Parliament. The Parliament says one thing, and then Nabanja comes out and says no. The Parliament says no, nyeganyege. The executive says they will be nyeganyege, and it passes like that. But those are just symptoms. In a situation where the Speaker, when Parliament orders a probe into Maitocha in Arua, and Museveni comes out and says, okay, if we don't surrender the people that tortured Kyagulanyi, what will Parliament do? Those are just symptoms. The bigger problem is state capture. The state is captured. No institution is functioning unless if it's functioning in the interest of General Museveni. That is where we are as a country. And the sooner we accept that that is where we are, the better.
Okay. The Computer Misuse Act amendment has also been on the floor of Parliament, and of course some have said it's good, it's to protect, but then others are saying that it's targeting those that are not in line with government and mainly opposition.
Well, I will tell you that hysterical bill that you like to call the Computer Misuse Act as amended is targeting our voices. First of all, they locked us out of mainstream media. That's why I don't even do recorded interviews. I want to say it live so that if you are to edit, at least you struggle to edit out the words I'm saying. Because the words that we are saying are such a threat to the regime, they don't want the truth. okay? They're trying to cut out people. They're passing all kind of stupid laws to gag people, to make sure people don't have free speech because we are exposing them. It's such a shame that they use people that were once trusted, people like Nsereko, the same way they use people like Besweri Murondo. They handpick, you know. It is such a tragedy that people like Nsereko don't see that they're using him, one, to muzzle his own people, to silence his own people, to silence the Muslims. But anyway, do they ever learn? Dictators always pick the greedy ones. They pick the greedy ones, and you know what greed does to these politicians. So, how do you say that for me to record you doing something wrong and expose you is going to be a crime? Okay? They're trying to clamp down on free speech, but this will not work. Martin Luther King taught us that when a law is unjust, it is not only enough to disobey that law, but it becomes your duty to disobey that law. I am telling you, the people of Uganda, that stupid law, that Nsereko law is a bogus law. Please disobey it. I say that again, please disobey it. It is nonsense. It is against the Constitution. The Constitution mandates our free speech, our freedom of expression. Okay? And the Constitution says when a law is in contravention with the Constitution, that law is null and void to the extent of its contradiction with the Constitution. So we shall go ahead expressing ourselves. I mean, they brought the Public Order Management Act. Didn't we gather? Aren't we here? So they're bringing that stupid law. We will still be here. We will express ourselves. We will expose you. We will record you. We will film you. We will post you. We will share everything. How do you tell me that if I post material that is going to expose you and ridicule and embarrass you, then I commit a crime? Why do you do the wrong thing in the first place? Sorry, if you don't want to do, if you don't want to be exposed, why do you do wrong things? Okay, it's about freedom of expression. It's only a wicked man that runs even when they are not being pursued. So those people are just trying to help Museveni. I was so surprised when I even saw Mao supporting it. Say no, but you see, it came those so-called intellectuals. The intellectuals like Dr. Besigye one time said are the misfortune of this country. They are the worst undoing of this country. For so long we trusted those people. They went to school but they didn't learn. They are educated idiots that don't know that historically, go back to the days of, there's this guy that passed an illegal animal law in the days of in the 60s. It came back to haunt them. Amama Mbabazi passed the Public Order Management Act when he was still in favor with the regime. He was the first culprit. I am telling you, Nsereko, you will be the first victim of that stupid law that you're trying to bring to shut the mouths of the people of Uganda. Okay. You will not succeed. You will be the victim of that. Like all other, you know, short-sighted politicians that go for quick gain, that are promised positions, that are promised money, and they go against their people.
All right. Now
they are abducting young men and women. I'm asking, how about those people? They put off their pants and show they are behind to the people. How come they are not being prosecuted? Okay. But you're prosecuting a whistleblower. You're prosecuting somebody that is exposing injustice. You know, I mean, how callous can you be?
Indeed, it's ironic because it's the same government that put out, you know, encouragements a few years ago telling the public to aid them in dealing with corruption. And one of those ways, of course, is exposing, report them and talk about them or go to the responsible offices. That's why we do have the anti-corruption office in the president's office.
But I mean, that's the irony.
Yeah, the irony of it.
I must add that first appointed Betty Kamya to go after the corrupt officials. And then she came and said, Mr. President, the first way to see a corrupt person is to weigh their lifestyle. I mean, you're putting on
lifestyle
a
audit,
dress
they called
worth,
it. Yeah.
$10,000. Where do you work? Well, let's do a lifestyle audit. Then Museveni speak because he knows they are going to arrest these people. I says, no, you stop that lifestyle audit. Otherwise, the thieves will invest the stolen money outside Uganda. You know.
The Thunder is telling us to go and take a cup of coffee after here. In your parting shots, we want to find out, the rains are here, it's the planting season. What's your statement to the people? And then also, what are the plans for the National Unity Platform in the remaining 3 months of the year?
First of all, I will express my solidarity with the people of Kasese, the people of Mbale, and all people that are affected by these massive rains. Where tragedies have occurred, we stand with you. We've sent our people there. As you know, it's not easy for me to physically come. And yet I want to extend relief to you. Our teams have been there. We stand in solidarity with you. And we commiserate to those that have lost loved ones. For those that can grow food. Mulime mere omuganda gamba wagwe kuba wagwana soli. Plant food, okay? Plant coffee emwanyi terimba. Forget this Museveni trying to take away your coffee. No, plant your coffee. Our coffee is going to outlive Museveni. Plant coffee. For those in towns, work hard. Be vigilant. Expose. Your camera is your weapon. Use social media. I know Facebook is blocked. They're trying to shut your mouth. They blocked Facebook, but they are still unsettled. I mean, batekanga tene Facebook bajigala. Netu basabula. Mubasabule. Mubalabise. Expose them. For the leaders, stand by values. For the people, hold your leaders accountable. Okay? Don't be there and think they are going to just think about you and feel sorry for you. No, hold them accountable. Leaders only function when they are held accountable. When you sleep, they will sleep. Other than that, we salute you. I send my salutations to the people of Uganda that are stuck in the Middle East. We are coming for you. We are soon having a concert in South Africa, in Dubai, and Qatar to make sure we repatriate you. We continue to pressure the regime here in Uganda. Mukomyeo abana bafe. Bring back our people. Let them come back home. The same way you do for your loved ones, do it for the people of Uganda. I could go on and on and on and on. I salute my fellow leaders at the National Unity Platform. Keep going. Comrade Joel Fenyonyi, salutations for our parliamentary team with the leader of opposition. We salute you, our Secretary General, Comrade Lewis, Comrade Nyanzi.
I will continue the salutations.
And by the way,
yes.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
To see a free Uganda.
Thank you.
And may you live to interview me when I'm real president.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right.